What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning back in. Today we are going to go through gear setup on the Dana 60. So I have this thing gutted already, and it's ready for the new ring and pinion in the locker. Definitely take the inner race from your gear case or from your axle and grind it down so that it fits. You want to slip fit on the inner race because you're going to be changing shims, and all gear setup basically translates into how well your pinion is set into the case. So backlash is not nearly as important as your pinion depth. So make this race. It'll save you a lot of time and effort. And then you probably won't screw up your brand new race trying to beat it in and out of the case a bunch of times. I'm going to press the pinion, and I'm going to insert the outer race. I'm going to use the new race on the outer. So I'm going to install that in the case, get the pinion pressed, and then we are going to try our initial 40,000 stack and go from there, run a pattern, and see what we get. Alright, so let's drive the inner race in, or the outer race in, or the pinion. Driven, and that one's good to go. A little oil on the bearing. And a little oil on the pinion. This is my bearing puller, but the dimension on the end is just perfect for pinion bearings. So.
1 eternity later.
I'm so glad I went and bought a press. Money. Alright, so we're ready to install our pinion. I have the inner race installed with the 4 10,000 shims. I took the old outer bearing and I made it a setup bearing because it is a press fit on a 60. Just to forewarn everybody, I am not running the bearings down with the impact gun. I'm simply sucking the yoke in until it has like no play, and then I will tighten it by hand. That's pretty close. I don't want to go any farther. I don't want to crush the bearings. I am upgrading this yoke to a 1350, so I don't really care for it. But you probably won't have any issues if you reuse your normal yoke. if you are doing axle setup, you definitely want to get yourself at least one of these beam type inch-pound torque wrenches. That way you can measure your pinion preload. There's not much there. I will keep going. I usually want to try and get them around 20 pounds, 20 inch-pounds, because that way at least I know I have a pretty decently snug pinion, and it will give me a good pattern, even though I'm using one new bearing and one old bearing. Yeah, I'm right around 20. That's good enough for me right now. Like I said, this is just for setup. You don't want to crank those bearings down super tight because you'll screw up the races. But what you do want to do is you want to make sure that your pinion is tight and loaded roughly around where you're going to be once you set all your preload shims in there. Rather than setting the preload now, which some guys will set the preload at the beginning, but you don't know if your pattern's good, so as soon as you have to change a shim, you have to change your preload anyway. So you can just snug that nut down, save yourself a lot of time. Get it close by tightening that nut up and having the yoke push on the bearing, and then we can run our inner pattern once we get the ring gear assembled to the locker. Put the shims on that, get the setup bearings in, push it down in there. We'll see where we're at as far as pinion depth, and then we'll go to town on changing it to make it work right. So we'll install the ring gear onto the locker. Pretty easy. Get your bolts started, then torque them down evenly to get it seated, and then obviously use Loctite on all of the bolts. Mine are 13/16, so I'm about to run the torque pattern. I generally torque in 2 stages in a crisscross pattern, so I start off around like 80 and I go up to 110, which is the final torque rating. So I'm going to do that real quick, and probably use an axle shaft and a pry bar as a way to brace it down so that I can torque them in. So that's how we're going to get it done. All right, our pinion is in, our ring gear is ready to go. I got to stack some shims on this. I'll probably start out with the factory shim stacks and then go from there, just to set the backlash. I'll figure it out. The setup bearings are right over there on the fire pit, on the fireplace. They're already made, so they'll just slip right on. Unless, of course, this is a different size carrier, which it should not be. Oh, that one might actually need a little trim. Maybe. Nope. There it goes. Easy peas. Just for reference, I'm going to check the other side too. There's always one. Everybody gets one. That one might need a little bit more of a trim. Yeah, she's about there, but not quite there. No biggie. I'll hit that real quick and then we'll get this thing put together. Alright, so this is the first pattern I've ran. This is at 10 thousandths backlash, which I can adjust later, but really all I was looking for was the pinion. As you can see, that's a pretty solid start. That's a good pattern right there. I mean, they're centered. It's fully along the edge of the tooth. Pulls through. See the coast side. Coast side is also centered pretty nicely on the inside. And you have to remember when you're running a 60 front and a low pinion, it is driving on the coast side of the gear. So if you are confused at all about which one is which, this side is the drive side, one my thumb's riding on, and the coast side is the concave side on the back there. Normally in a rear end you would be running on the drive side, but on a low pinion front 60 you are turning the pinion the exact same way as the rear, so you are driving in reverse basically, and you're pushing those gears, so you're going to be driving on the coast side. So you do want to make sure that you have a good pattern on both ends. I was okay with that pattern. I didn't mind it, but I think I could do better. So I went ahead and I rechanged the pinion shims And instead of running 40 thousandths, I pulled 3 thousandths out, so now it's at 3/7. I have to use a combination of all new ones and one of my old ones from the original pinion. I'm not a huge fan of the USA standard kits. I mean, I know that they're the low budget Yukon kits, and they basically use Koyo bearings, which are still good, instead of the Timkins. But the shims, they always seem to not give you enough shims, so either order an extra set of shims if you want them, or just be cool with using some of your old ones. I just mishmashed them, and I got this one down to 3/7, so we're gonna run another pattern on that, and I want to see how that looks, because that's, you know, a 3 thousandths change isn't a really significant change. It's considered a small change. You'd be looking at like 10 to 15 thousandths for a large change, but because our pattern's like just about right there, and I saw that it was just a little bit deep and starting to kind of make a little hamburger curve on the inside of the tooth, I wanted to try it with a little bit less. But we'll see how the 3/7 looks, and then I'll know whether or not I actually want to go back out or if I'm going to run 3/7. So I'm going to put up pictures for you so you can see. If you look at the drive cycle, or the drive side, sorry, the drive cycle. The drive side, we did get a little bit of an improvement in the pattern. It's definitely a little more flat. You can see that it's more centered and it's starting to spread farther out on the tooth. On the coast side, it's a little bit less hilly, and it's a little more spread out as well. You can kind of tell, but yes, that is definitely a decent pattern to run on a front axle. We'll see how it goes. I probably won't blow it up. Now that we've ran a 3/7, I already started putting the new bearings in. I switched the setup race out, put the real race in there for the inner pinion bearing, and the new outer pinion bearing is installed. I did already mess with my preload and got it all done, because that's kind of a tedious task. But once you get that kind of mocked up where you want it, you're going to want to look for like 20 to 25 inches of preload, inch-pounds of preload. So we are dead nuts at 25 on this one. So I'm calling it good. It started out with 62 on the 410 kit. I actually ended up going down to 60 thousandths to get the proper preload, and that worked out just perfect for 250 foot-pounds of torque on the pinion nut. So I'm going to install the pinion seal, and I'm going to get that yoke put on, Loctite the nut, the brand new nut, and the new washer. Put a little lube on the washer, makes it a little easier to hit your torques. And then get that side done, and then we'll flip it around, go to the other side, install the axle seals, and then get to finishing the final preload on the carrier with the new bearings on that. So this is a seal installation tool for a Dana 60. Pretty easy to use. Definitely a lot easier than trying to install them any other way. Just thought I'd go over how to use it. You basically just slide your seal on there. And I like to coat my seals with Honda Bond. It's probably the best silicone you are going to find ever. So just put a good amount on the edge. This stuff kicks the shit out of regular gray RTV that you'd buy Permatex stuff. That stuff sucks in comparison to Honda Bond. So really good. If you can find it, you should be able to order it online. If you can't order it online, head down to your local Honda outboard dealer or the motorcycle shop, and they will be able to get it for you. But I used to use it all the time for doing all kinds of things at the boat shop, so alright. Kind of get it squared up in there. Tighten down. And then we will send it home.
That's me, just my mind. Oh. some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight.
Currently, the axle is sitting on the sawhorses. It is completely done for the most part. I already got the DIY cover on with the lube locker, and I started putting the tie rod back on. I got the axles in and the spindles are on. She's pretty much there. Just gotta put the hubs on, repack the bearings real quick, put the hubs back on, and pretty much slam some wheels on it and roll it back under the truck tomorrow morning. As you can see, there it is. It is in the truck. I put new U-bolts in it that I had laying around. She's pretty much put together. I gotta connect the drag link, and I have to put the calipers on and mount the shocks. And then we'll put the tires on it, and this thing will be back on its own weight. So that's pretty much it for this truck. I guess I'll do a little time lapse while I put it all together, just for a little more entertainment for you. But as far as this goes, this one was done. Oh yeah, I know you saw it. I know you did, cause you saw it and now you gotta punch yourself, cause I can't punch you. But if you're a millennial, you probably got that joke. You probably know what happened. If you don't understand what happened, well, I'm sorry that you're not cool enough. But the truck's wrapped up. We're done for now. Glad the axles and the lockers are in. That stuff is done. I don't have to do it anymore. It's not that bad, but it is nice to not have to do it again. Or anymore, I should say. It's a lot of heavy lifting when you gotta, pick up balls this big. But the reality is, just waiting on parts for the transfer case to show up, and I will make a video when I do all of that stuff. That'll be the next step, and then after that we'll get some drive shaft action going, and I will probably get me some 38.5 TSL SXs. I think that'll be the right tire for this rig. 43s would be too big, and 38.5s might just be just right for what I want to do with it, as far as making it a trail rig. Once all that stuff's done, probably going to take it on a little maiden voyage around the property here and give her a little shakedown. If everything checks out, then I'll probably take it up to Brown's Camp and go for a weekend wheeling trip. But yeah, so this part's done, and thanks for sticking around and watching the video. If you guys could do me a solid and hit the sub button and the like button, get this video out there, it really helps, especially with me convincing my wife to let me spend a bunch more money on this truck. You better punch yourself, because I know you saw it, and if you are a fellow millennial, then you just lost the game too. But I'll see you guys in the next video, and hope you have a good day. Peace.
Am I gonna do it? Yes. When am I gonna do it? Don't know. Could be tomorrow. Now!